So that shiny new game just came out, Empire of the Ants, and you want to know if it's worth your time, right? Well, let's take a look at the game first and first impressions. Keep in mind this is not a full review, this is a quick look at the game. I played the game for a little over 2 hours, so I'll show some footage of the game while describing it and giving a few thoughts on it. First off, I'm a little bit sick, so I might sound a little off. And also, if you didn't know, this game is based on the book, also called Empire of the Ants. I don't know if it follows a story of that book, or if it's simply inspired by that book, but regardless, it should be similar. Performance for this game was good on my end. I have a 3080 Ti and I played on 1440p with max settings and DLSS on quality. My FPS was usually around 70 to 95, and the absolute lowest I saw was 69, and the highest a little bit over 100. But for the most part, I was mid 70s to high 80s. I had no stutters or crashes, but I did have a strange issue I've not had with a game before. At the base area of the game, where you go before missions, the whole right and bottom of my screen was just a pixelated mess, while the game was in the top left corner. This only happened in the base area and nowhere else. It was very strange, and I thought for a second that my GPU might have been dying. I tried 1080p, 1440p, and 4K, and none of that fixed the issue. I did try 720p, that fixed the issue, but it also introduced its own issues, where the game would flicker and then the screen was weirdly zoomed in. I loaded up the game 3 times just now to test it again at 1440p. The first time was pixelated, the second time it wasn't there at all, which was surprising, and the third time it was pixelated again. As of now, I'm unsure if one of my PC parts aren't working properly or if it's a game. If it is the game, I assume this is something that will be fixed pretty soon. This issue did not affect my ability to play this game, as it was just in the base area between missions, where it's not that important. This game has an online mode and a campaign mode, and I'll go over the campaign first. To begin the campaign, it's pretty simple. You just follow the path and you learn the controls. You play as an ant, and you can walk, run, and jump. That's about all that your own ant can do. You can also walk across various things like flowers and trees, even vertically and upside down, which is pretty cool. Usually there's a few ants that you can talk to, but they don't say too much. The main missions will have yellow exclamation points above an ant that you need to talk to, and you can also ask them a few questions if you want. There's no actual talking, it's all done via dialogue on the screen. Your ant cannot fight. Your role in this game is controlling other ants. This first mission is getting you used to that. You have worker ants. Those are the ones that you send to scavenge for food. They can also fight, but I just had mine collect food. Warriors are the frontline attackers, and gunners are the ranged attackers. The first mission is getting used to controlling those 3 types of ants and attacking termite nests. The next mission is you helping out rebuilding an outpost. So let's talk about nests now. You usually start off with 1 or 2 of them, and each nest can only have a single ant type. So let's say I wanted to have warrior ants on one nest, so I make them via the nest menu in the legions tab, but I also wanted gunners in that nest too. Well, I can't actually do that. Only 1 ant type is allowed per nest, so you'd have to use a second nest to make the gunners. There's also more ant types and insect types in the legions tab that you can make, like tiers 1, 2, and 3 of the worker, gunner, and warrior ant types. In addition to that, there's also a type of beetle that you can make, which are more heavy frontline attackers. Besides the legions tab, you also have 4 other tabs: economy, defense, information, and powers. Nests aren't infinitely sized, so you can't build everything at one nest. You'll need to split up what you want to build over several nests. In the economy tab, for example, there is a wood yard and a mushroom farm. You'll want to make both of these, as wood and food are the 2 resources in the game that are needed to make everything else. But again, one nest can't have both of those at once, only one. This applies to other items that you can craft as well. Visually on the outside, nothing really changes when you add stuff to your nest. So far there are 2 things that I've seen that change how your nest actually looks. In the defense tab, you can put up stick walls around your nest, and then crafting a new ant legion will make the ants come out of the ground from inside the nest. As an ant, you'd expect that you could go into the ground, but you can't go in it. You can't actually enter any of the nests either. You're just on the surface controlling the ants. But I did do a mission where I needed to jump on fireflies, and that mission was done underground. So at least you can go underground in some form. I also did a mission where I needed to rescue ants because the water was rising, and I sucked at that. For some reason, those ants had no instinct to survive and will just die if you don't get to them in time. Also in that mission, you have to use the pheromones to try and locate them. But even when you're close to them, it's kind of hard to find them as they're just sitting there unmoving, and they're brown, so they just blend into the environment pretty well. I think 1 or maybe 3 ants might have died, simply because the water was rising a little too fast for me to find all the ants in time. The final mission I did before I got off the game was destroying a bunch of termite nests, and then destroying a headquarters for the termites. Each nest that you defeat, you can then take over for yourself. However, there is a limit to how many ant legions that you can have at once, so not every nest can have a legion on it. One tab in the nest that was kind of interesting was the powers tab. That has powers that your ant can activate that will affect all the other ants under your control. The rage power increases their damage for 30 seconds, and another example for a power is the dash power. That increases their move speed by 80% for 12 seconds. I also got to command some beetles in that campaign mission, which I thought was pretty neat. Those were the heavy attackers that I mentioned. After I described destroyed the termites, I switched over to the multiplayer tab. I didn't actually play any matches, but I do have some info for you. There are 3 game modes: 1v1, 3v3, free-for-all, meaning there's no teams. It's just the 3 of you against one another. And then there's the custom game mode. The custom mode lets you invite your friends too, using a code. Also in the multiplayer tab, you can create your loadout. You can choose 4 powers only, and you can choose your Super Predator Legion, as well as your starting Legion and your support Legion. The Super Predators are like the big beetles I was playing with in the campaign, but when I was looking at the multiplayer loadout, I could actually see more than just the beetles. So it seems like there's more bugs that I can control in the campaign. I just haven't got to it yet. That more or less concludes my time on this game. Visually, the game looks really nice. Performance was fine too. There are different mission types, and each mission has been pretty fun to play so far. On Steam, it says that the campaign is about 20 to 25 hours long, and I'm only 2 hours in. So far, the campaign is a little lacking in the story, but that could pick up later. But the missions are what you're here for. Then there's the online aspect. I'm going to stick to the campaign myself, but the multiplayer is there if you want it. Overall, I'd say it's a pretty good and unique game to play. It's just fun to play as an ant, though that's my personal opinion. Whether or not this is your type of game, I'll see you on the next one.